On to our next topic, and it's coming up fast. I can't believe. I remember last year during the pandemic, we found out that things started to get canceled. Right here in Boston, the Boston Marathon got moved, and then we saw the NBA season came to a halt. Baseball season got pushed ahead. The NFL draft was remote, and then we saw that the Olympics were moved from last year to 2021 this year, and it's coming up fast. It's in a couple of months. It starts July 23rd out in Tokyo, Japan. And Brandon, you were hearing that they were thinking about Tokyo, or Japan rather, was thinking about punting and not having the Olympics this year. They're already not having, they're banning foreign spectators. So, it's great that we're going to have the Olympics. We just mentioned how it's great to have the NCAA tournament again, but there's still some COVID protocols and issues down the line that are still going to need to be worked out for this year's Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I love the Olympics. I mean, I'm a track and field guy. This is the main time for track and field beyond watching like a diamond event or maybe like a world championship event. The Olympics is really where it's at for the track and field and for every other sport. I mean, we're talking about the best athletes in the world representing their countries. So first off, I love the Olympics. And hey, second off, I was big shocked when it got canceled. It was the right move. During COVID, it was the right move to move it. But we're talking about these athletes that have prepared, some of them all their life for that moment. And then a lot of them, obviously, over these last 4 years have just been dedicating their life nonstop. First off, to being able to qualify for their team. And then second off, getting ready for the Olympics. And then it got canceled and moved on them to 2021. But I'm glad that it's happening this year. I'm super excited for it. I'm amped up. This was definitely a topic I wanted to talk about. And yeah, it was out there that Tokyo was trying to punt the games and trying to get rid of the games and just trying to say, hey, to the Olympic Committee, can you kind of put us back in the pool to maybe get the Olympics maybe 8 to 10 years down the line when there's no COVID, obviously. And the Olympic Committee said, no, we cannot do that. Either you have the Olympic Games now or we're going to punt you down the line a good 30 or 40 years. And so it was one of those things where then Tokyo said, all right, well, we'll have the games at this point, which it makes sense because obviously they've invested a lot of money into these venues and a lot of money for the venues for the athletes. And the greatest thing I like about the Olympics is you can use these venues for the public later on. And they kind of melt into public access, which is amazing for the Olympics. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think a lot of us that love the Olympics are super excited. And when you talk about the Olympics, the Summer Olympics is where it's at. I know we've got the Winter Olympics, a little bit of a bore, in my opinion. I like watching the hockey and I like watching, some of the ski jumps. But beyond that, I mean, and I'm sorry, the shooting is kind of cool. But beyond that, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of boring. But the Summer Olympics, pretty much every event, everything that you watch is exciting, from beach volleyball to tennis to golf. I mean, obviously, you got basketball in there. You've got track and field. I mean, there's just so many amazing events. You've got marathon. You've got biking. Like, I'm amped, if you can't tell. I am ready for the Olympics. I love Japan. I love Tokyo. I talked about it before the show with you about how I'd love to visit Tokyo and I'd love to visit Japan. So I think this is going to be an amazing games that they're going to put on. But I think it is going to be limited with COVID. Obviously, athletes are going to have to follow certain rules, and they're definitely going to have to stay masked up. And I'm hoping that the United States team can stay extra cautious and extra safe and keep all of our athletes safe so we can go ahead and do what we normally do in the Olympics, which is get the W's and get gold medals. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to play out under COVID. But yeah, I'm just excited. And I want to give a shout out to when the, 1994, the Atlantic Games in the United States, and how I was excited as a kid. I was only in 4th grade, but we had the games here on the American soil. And that's just how much it means to certain people, the Olympics. And so I'm really excited to see it coming.
Yeah, I love the Summer Olympics too. I like them more than the winter. I'm not a winter sports guy. I don't ski or anything like that. So, I mean, I still like watching the Winter Olympics. Those are a lot of fun too. But summer is my favorite too. The swimming is a lot of fun to watch too. I like watching the swimming races, and track and field's awesome and stuff. So it's going to be great just to see we've been so isolated, and then on top, as stuff starts to come back, we're doing a lot of stuff here in America with sports. But it will be cool to see an international sporting event. we've all talked about, COVID and how it's affecting this country and how it's affecting that country and who from this country came here and who from this country. And it'll be nice just to kind of have an international athletic competition. COVID's still going to be in everybody's minds. Hopefully, a lot of the U.S. athletes are already going to be vaccinated at that point. It's looking like they could be. So that'll be great. And then they won't have to worry about getting sick or anything when they're over there. But they're still going to have COVID protocols, and there's still going to be things that they have to go through. I understand why Tokyo is concerned about having the Olympics, both as a government and then as the Olympic Committee in Japan. I totally understand that. But if you give up the Olympics, there's cities and countries that are lining up. It's like being on the wait list for Patriots season tickets. Like, it's going to take 2 decades for you to try to get the next Olympics. There's generations that are trying to get the Olympics. It's every 4 years. So, you're not going to get the Olympics again in 8 years. That's crazy. So, I think it makes all the sense in the world to just keep it here. They already made plans for it. You just had to wait another year. I know there's so many things and logistics that have to be worked out, but it makes total sense to keep it in Tokyo. And I hope it goes well, because it's always awesome to watch the Olympics.
Yeah, I think one of the things, like you talked about, that we definitely have to watch about going forward is, are they going to be banning spectators? Are they not going to be allowing spectators from other countries to even enter the country and to be able to see the Olympics? You're talking about family members. You're talking about maybe private coaches that are going along with some of these athletes. You're talking about just regular fans, like I said, that love the Olympics. So it's one of those things where I get it. As a country, they want to limit who comes in their country right now under COVID. But I think it's one of those things right now where if you are the host of the Olympic Games, you have to let these people come. You have to let these spectators come, and you just have to do it safe. You have to do it safe. You have to mask up. You have to still do the social distancing where you can, and you just have to do it as safe as possible. But I don't know. It's just something I think we're probably going to cover as soon as we get closer to the Olympic Games, because we're going to have more to talk about it.